Women's Reform Movement 1848 to 1920. The 16th presidential election between Zachary Taylor, Martin Wayne, and Louise Case was occurring during and prior to the women's rights movement.
The 16th election led to the reform because during this election, women were not allowed to vote and wanted to have a say in who was going to run their country.
Well, I won't give up.
The purpose of the women's reform movement was for women to have the rights any citizen in the United States deserved. They wanted equal treatment of the men and women under the law. The main goals of the women's reform movement was to gain the right for women to vote, equal pay for women, to achieve equality of men, and owning property.
These leaders were so passionate about the women's reform because they strongly believed that the women deserved equal rights as men. One of the leaders, Susan B. Anthony, who worked as a teacher, was upset that men's monthly pay was $8 more than women's pay.
Was this reform successful? The women's rights reform was successful because today women have equal rights as men. Also, the main goals of this reform were fulfilled because women can own property, vote, and enter a skilled profession. This reform shaped American society during the time period it was occurring in because many single women found work and started to become more independent.
How did Americans initially react to this reform? Most Americans did not agree with the women protesting for their rights.
At the first Women's Rights Convention in Seneca Falls, more than 300 men and women discussed the Declaration and debated 12 resolutions for women's rights and equality. Everyone agreed on them, and women's equality started out slow.
Why should the reform be added to the U.S. Constitution as the 13th Amendment?
The 13th Amendment declared that neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for crime wherefore the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject. The women's rights movement became involved with the struggle to abolish slavery, which resulted in the 19th Amendment giving them the right to vote. Therefore, it should be added to the 13th Amendment.
What would happen to the U.S. if this reform was ignored? If this reform was ignored, the women in the United States would not be equal today and would not have the right to vote, own property, have an education, and be hired for a skilled profession.
The women's rights movement was the most effective reform because it equalized women's rights with men's.